I was running a party house for lack of explanation. But basically, it was more than just a party house, and it's kind of where I've got the real insight into like business, because that party house was making $6 grand-ish, $7 grand-ish a month, and that's what we were using to fund the house, fund the next parties, and keep growing the audience that we had at that time.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Walk 12 podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, make sure to do yourself one teeny tiny little favor and make sure to give us a follow, because I don't want you to miss out on any of the amazing guests I got coming out this year. Without further ado, let's get right into this one. If you guys seen episode 200, then you would have the Cliff Notes version of Eric, and I was like, man, 10 minutes isn't going to do him justice. Let's bring him on for the full podcast and get to dive deeper into how he got to where he's at and what he's doing now. So, Eric, for anyone who hasn't listened to episode 200 and hasn't gotten the opportunity to get to know you, to get to meet you yet, man, tell us your elevator pitch. Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. And John, thank you again for having me here. And this is amazing what you've built with Walk to Wealth and everything that you're working on in AI and all your projects. Really amazing stuff. So I'm super appreciative to be able to be on here. And yeah, let me jump right in and give my elevator pitch. It doesn't work the same when we're not in front of a big audience, but I'll just do it as if we were. So, how many people in the audience today search something on Google? Let's see a show of hands. All right. So how many of you clicked on at least one of the top 3 results? Again, everybody does. Somebody's clicking on something on Google every day. That's what we do. So at Online Biz Builders, we put your business at the top. So we make sure that when your potential clients are searching, that they will find you and give you a call. So with Online Biz Builders, we focus on search engine optimization, website design, and Google pay-per-click. So we give basically the full package to help people show up in the search engines and bring on new business.
Amazing. So, Eric, for anyone, as I said, who hasn't listened to episode 200, give us, take us back in the time machine a little bit. What was little Eric like? You don't have to go as in depth as we did last time, but what was little Eric like growing up?
Definitely a little bit of a troublemaker. A little bit's probably an understatement. But someone who liked to think outside the box and didn't like to be told what to do. And I think that has a lot to play with where we are today. It's entrepreneur mindset. I don't know if that's exactly what it was at a young age, but just thinking, you know what, there's a better way that I could be doing this, so that's how I'm going to do it. And when you're younger, that doesn't always go well with people who are older than you.
No, 100%. Being a little bit defiant, right, towards authority never usually works out when you're younger. Everyone thinks you're a problem child. I still remember, I don't really remember, but people tell me stories how I used to, back when I used to live where I used to live, I used to run out the house in my diapers and just just cause mayhem. Just run out the house and just sprint out, and then my mom or something like that would go out chasing me.
What was that, last week?
You pretty much. You're not down. You're making yourself sound old, bro. I hope you know. You make yourself sound extremely old by making that joke. But I mean, hey, I'd rather be young than old, right?
Hey, that's it.
But so fast forward, man, Eric. So you started Online Biz Builders, right? Take us back. Fast forward, as I said, because anyone wants to hear more of the backstory, go check out episode 200. So fast forward, to take us back to that point in time where you were starting Online Biz Builders.
So at that point, I was still in college, and at my point in college, and I did go over this in the last episode, but to give whoever's watching now some more context, I was running a party house for lack of explanation. But basically, it was more than just a party house, and it's kind of where I've got the real insight into like business, because that party house was making $6 grand-ish, $7 grand-ish in that area a month. And that's what we were using to fund the house, fund the next parties, and keep growing the audience that we had at that time. And that's where I really started to see like, okay, this is pretty cool, but it gets old. The partying aspect just kind of gets old. And we still love the party. We just love to party in different places, right? I don't want to party in a frat house basement. I want to party on a yacht or a rooftop. So it's a little bit different. But so that's when I was in college, was probably beginning of my junior year ish. where I kind of started separating from all that and started putting some more work into, not just school, not just, getting the bare minimum done on that side, but started getting into SEO. At that time, I was actually starting to get into foreign exchange trading and just learning about all these different avenues of building a business. So at that point, I didn't have one thing in particular, but it was just starting to kind of go down that line and kind of get that bite from the entrepreneurial bug.
Now, one thing I don't know if I asked this when you last talked, but or whether that was in an interview or in person, but did you ever work like a corporate job? I can't remember. No,
Nope,
right?
no. So
Is-
the last job I had was actually at the liquor store that we used to buy the kegs from for the parties.
No way. So you used to get a deal, I'm assuming.
Yep,
No, so and how old are you now? So it's been like what, like 8 years since you last had a job or something like that?
something like that. Yeah, so I'm 26 now.
Yeah, sheesh, man. So never got into job. So all right, now that we got past the backstory, as I said, if anyone go check out episode 200, get the full backstory. But fast forward us to what are you doing now that you didn't foresee yourself doing back then? Like, was this always envisioned, like what you like the way you're putting out online biz builders, like, or is this something that you kind of pivoted for, or something that's just like completely into left field as to what you thought you would originally be doing?
Um, I kind of flipped the script a little bit on what I originally had planned. The original plan was, and we'll definitely get deeper into this aspect. Um, as I learned more about different avenues of building online businesses, was like, oh, I'm gonna have 10 different online businesses, and online biz builders will be one. I'll have ecom stores, I'll have this, I'll have that, I'll have this, and that ended up being the worst possible thing I could do. And that actually, I would say, hindered my growth for, I would say, a year and a half, almost 2 years, because and you hear everybody saying it now, but once you start experiencing it firsthand, you can only have so much focus in a day, right? You've only
Mm.
got so much mental brain power that you can put towards something. So if you're trying to split it between 10 different businesses, you'll never get what you could get out of one business. They'll never all succeed. And it's not saying that they don't work. It's just saying they need the time, they need the effort individually. So now you're trying to take that same time and effort and split it between all of them. It'll just never work. So it took me a long time to realize that. So, but that was my initial idea to start up with. And the way that I'm saying that it kind of flipped is because we really narrowed it down to where I actually cut off multiple businesses and ones that were generating revenue. I had ecom stores, some doing 5, 6 to 10K a month. Monetized YouTube channels, nothing doing crazy, maybe a couple $100 a month maybe. And all these other little side projects. I actually had a solar company at one point. Dumb. Like why do I need to be going out trying to sell solar? But whatever. And it actually turned into a lead generation project for another solar company, but that's a separate story. Um, so cut all those projects off, and then just focused right down onto online biz builders, and that's where we saw the most growth. That's where we really started to get everything in place, because when you have all these different projects, even if you have one main project, when you run into a problem on that main project, you're like, oh, let me take a break from this and go work on something else. Terrible.
Mm.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Because you know what? You have to do that part right there where you're like, oh, this problem right here sucks. Like, you got to figure that out. Distracting yourself from that with another project, it's the worst thing you can do. So back to where we were. So just focusing on online biz builders, just really, really digging in on that, focusing on that. And then now we're doing a couple different things. So we're still focusing on client acquisition, which we're actually going very aggressively at. And we can definitely go into that as well. But the way it's flipped is because we're actually acquiring other online businesses now, which I touched on at the 200th
We're eating,
episode.
yeah, and
But
coffee too. You talked about a little bit.
yeah, so the idea behind it is, instead of me trying to start and build all these separate businesses, I now have a team that they're good at what they do. So instead of starting every business from the bottom, why don't we acquire online businesses like blogs or e-com stores or things like that that can rely on my team, have them be treated as clients, and kind of grow that way. So now we've got digital assets. So kind of like a owning a property or anything like that. But it's just funny because it kind of it just flipped over time. The whole idea of what we were trying to do.
Yeah, no, it's crazy that you mentioned that. Like, you have digital assets. Like, I remember the first time I was on a real estate investor call, mainly because one of my friends hosted the call, and so I was in there tuning in, and they were talking about your net worth and like what properties do you have under management, right? How many properties do you have? And what came to mind is like, I have all these courses, all these webinars and workshops. It's like I have intellectual property, which is a very different kind of property, but property nevertheless. It's just like getting digital assets is something that is extremely beneficial, but not a lot of people really talk about much. And I want to talk about a little bit deeper onto before we get move on. But you said that you had to cut off all your businesses. It's always easier to say, like, where attention grows, where attention flows, it grows, whatever the saying is, right? How if you put all your attention into one thing, it's going to more likely work and have a better chance of working out. But then also, it sucks to kill off other good ideas that you had. So like when you were navigating through that, like I know for me, I think I told you a little bit about my story, how I was in real estate and teaching these social media classes and working at Sign the Whale and podcasting all at the same time. And like it was so much at the same time. And just to repeat what you were saying, like, man, there was one problem in this and one problem in that, but I can only choose one and your attention is but so limited. So it's like me quitting, honestly, quitting real estate was pretty easy because I was fed up with real estate. I was like, "F that," I don't want to deal with real estate. But like quitting my job was pretty tough, man, to go all into my business. But like for you, when you had to like finally like double down and focus, what was that process like? Like pulling the plug on some other ideas that probably also could have been good ideas. How do you put that same energy and attention that you put into online biz builders into them? What was that like?
It hurts. It hurts. It's kind of like that idea is a kid, and now it's like, okay, goodbye, you're gone. So it it's exactly like you said. It's just kind of getting rid of something, and it's not fun. But looking at you have to look at. I'm not gonna say you have to look at everything from the bigger picture, but just looking at it from the 30,000 foot view, it's just what makes the most sense, right?
Mm.
And another really good point that kind of helps you decide which ones to cut off is which one's paying the bills. you know, if you've got one that's paying the majority of your bills, and you've got five other ones that are just kind of chipping in a little bit here and there, it's like, well, I might like those and they have potential, but this one's already proven, right? This one's proven, it's got a track record, even if that track record is bumpy. And that's definitely is with any business. I was gonna say online business, but any business, it gets bumpy. But if it has a proven track record that it works, then go all in. If you're already making money on that, then that's where you can double it, triple it, and even take it further than that.
Yeah, so then to follow up with that, you always hear online like, millionaires have 7 streams of income. Like you need multiple streams of income. But like for the people who are newer to entrepreneurship or are trying to get an idea off the ground, like what would you tell those people in terms of like trying to have all these different sources of income? And you mentioned too, like you had YouTube channels that are coming in a couple hundred, some e-com stores, a couple thousand to 10,000 a month, and all these different businesses that are producing money, but it's like not the main thing. It's like, what's your whole thoughts on like the whole like multiple stream of income thing that all the business online gurus are preaching?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and great question. Um, these millionaires that say you have to have 7 streams of income, they've already generated their first million, 2 million, however much, or enough to where their main start in making money was abundant enough to where they could start building out those next projects.
Mm.
So when you have something that's just overflowing, it's at a point where it's just growing. And I'm not going to say that you don't have to be there, but it doesn't require your full attention because you have people that are managing all those different aspects. Then you start jumping into other projects. Um, that's and that's what a lot of these people who are just starting out don't fully realize. and it's a mistake I made. I mean, it is absolutely, and it cost me a lot of money. It cost me a lot of potential realized value and a lot of direct, a lot of direct value. And I learned a ton from it, and I bought courses in every, sector. But yeah, it's getting one thing, and it's never going to be perfect, but getting one thing moving, get it to where it's abundant, then you add on something else.
No, 100%. I agree. I think I think one thing like people forget to realize when they look up to these online people is that there's a million different ways to skin a cat, and like you take one person's word as the only word sometimes, and you don't really like ever stop to think like, yo, do I even want to live life like them? Like, do I want to go through what they went through to get to that point? Because it sounds cool and all, having a couple side hustles and other sources of income. Just say never put all your eggs in one basket. But it's like, what good is if having multiple eggs in a basket if none of them can really bring in anything of substantial value? You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So I wanted to say too, like to add to that, I think for me, I realized that when I was at a point where like real estate, my first year I did 4 rentals, which I mean, some people will say, "Oh, my first year I didn't make anything, whatever." So, whatever. Then teaching a social media classes, like I didn't make any money off of that, and then the podcast wasn't something I wanted to monetize. It's just like it was one of those things. Where it's like, man, you ever turn for like on just hard work after a while, it's not worth it after a while. Like, it just you get to a point where you're just putting in so much time, energy, and effort just to have nothing move forward.
Yeah. And that's that. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the scary part of taking the leap, because you just have to have belief in yourself and belief that you're gonna make it happen,
Mm,
because that's gonna happen. I mean, you're gonna be putting in all this effort to create. This is your baby. This is what you're growing.
yeah,
You're gonna put in all this effort, and you might not see the returns right away.
yeah,
There's a good chance you won't. I mean, there were points where when I was first starting that I lost a ton of money. Just in OBB. I mean, um, and it's just learning the ropes and figuring out what needs to happen to start kind of getting to that next level where you can start to figure out where to monetize and start to kind of get those pieces into play, where you can build your audience, where you can build a podcast that everyone's looking up to and dying to see the next episode. So I mean, it's a lot of back end work that a
yeah,
lot of people don't see, and a lot of people on social media don't see either. So, I mean, a lot of people on social media just see, oh, there's a ton of people at this event. There's, a bunch of people who are checking out this podcast. There's a bunch of
yeah,
people on this website, blah, blah, blah. They don't, to them, it's just like, okay, that took 20 seconds for them to see it and be like, oh, okay, that's the association. That
mm.
20 seconds might have taken, you know, I'm not going to say 20 years, but,
Yeah,
to make that happen, that could have taken 2-3 years, you
yeah,
know? There's a lot of stuff that happens in the background that a lot of people just don't fully grasp how it is. And it's not going to have a return right away. It's just kind of having, like I said, that belief in yourself. If you believe in anything else, having belief in that, and then just sticking to it, just
yeah. You
driving it.
mentioned too, like, especially for, like putting events together, right? We both just came back from my event. Were you at A to BCon with Brandon?
I
You weren't
couldn't
able
make
to
it.
make. Oh damn!
I wasn't
But
able to
like,
make it.
long story
Yeah.
short, like, I know you go to a lot of networking events and like conferences and things like that nature. For me, I've been going to. I mean, I stopped going to as much as I used to, but like in 2022, I was going to a bunch of networking events. I was going to networking events almost every week. It felt like I was going to like one or two just to get out there. So I wanted to ask you because I know with the hype in Stanford, right? You guys host networking events. I know you've been to a ton of events. How big has like networking been, like throughout your journey, and why do you continue to go to a ton of events?
It's
Whether
definitely
real quick, yeah, whether networking events or like conference or anything, like just events in general.
right, 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 right. It's definitely been a huge part. And whether I get direct business from it or I just cultivate relationships, it's huge. A big thing for me was when I started traveling. Well, I've been traveling a lot. I actually cut down this year a lot on traveling, but before
Mhm.
that, I was traveling for SEO conferences. I was in Vegas for a while, and meeting other people in directly in my industry. Because before that, I was going to a lot of business or like technology kind of conferences, which are great.
Mhm.
Still in my field, still meeting great people. But going out to something that was like specifically in my space, like I got people in those groups that I met with, and I know some of the top SEO guys in the country. Some of
Mhm.
these guys who are doing it internationally, and I mean we have international clients, but their entire focus is just ranking around the world, which is insane. Um, but you meet these kind of people that are where you want to be, and that's what's really important when you're doing and going to these events. It's always great to go to as many as you can, but you also just don't want to get caught up in just networking and not building. So like it does get to a point where it's like, oh, I'm spending so much time at all these events and blah blah blah, and great. Is it turning into business? Yes, no, whatever, great or not. But is it taking away from your business growing? That's the next question. And going back to when I was traveling a lot, like we spoke about it in the past. I
Yeah.
think I spent like it was like if I put it all together, like a total of 2 or 3 months last year traveling. And I'm just like looking back, and I was like, whoa, like that's 2 or 3 months that yes, I was networking, meeting people, and doing some business, but when you're traveling for work, are you really working and being as productive as you could be? And if you say
Yeah.
yes, you're lying.
Nah, 100%. We were talking about that at the coffee shop, and
Yep.
man, it's crazy because like people don't realize when you travel for events, you're not just away for those days. You have to factor in the days post event that it takes you to get back into the routine and the swing of things. Because usually you go to these events, you're not usually waking up at the same time you normally do. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Because maybe you're going to a networking event in the evening, right? So it's like you stay out a little later than you maybe usually do, right? You're in there and like if it's a full day event, it's like it's so taxing to meet all these people and also get all that information and retain that information and then go out and network it throughout the entire day. Like that takes away so much energy. Like you get exhausted when you get to these events, and if you mean you can sneak out here and there, but as you said, it's not the same thing. And I kind of brought up the topic of networking. There's something I didn't ask you about. It's like as someone especially who's hosted networking events before of your own, like what for me, networking and making connections has been everything. Like that's how I'm here today. Like doing all what I'm doing is all like even the podcast it was my boy's idea to start the podcast. I ended up taking it on my own and getting to where we're at completely on my own. But had he never suggested the idea, podcasting would have never even been on my radar. It's just like networking connections have been everything to me. So from someone who hosts events, like what is like a big no no in terms of like networking do's and don'ts? Like, how can you make a solid connection without being one of those people that within the first second just hand out a business card and expect you to remember them?
And we all know those people. So, I mean, that's a great starting point. Don't be that person.
Yeah.
I actually, I don't, I try not to really like jump into, oh, here's my business card. Here's this, here's that. You know what?
Yeah.
I like to sit and start a conversation, start somewhere. And you might not hand out a business card the first time you talk to somebody, but the chances are, especially if, you're in the local area, you're going to see that person at some other events.
Yeah.
But if you have a quality conversation to where it's worth, you know, both of you remembering each other, then you hand them a card. You don't exactly, to your point, you don't want to be that guy that's just like, "Hi, here's my card." Next person, "Hi, here's my card." Or that person who just leaves cards on the bar or for where people are sitting, right? Because guess where those are going? In the trash. Like
Yeah.
nobody's gonna look at them. When you have a meaningful connection with somebody, whether it's about business, whether it's about life, whether you guys just happen to have similar skincare routines, whatever, when you give them that card, after that there's an association to that card where it's recalling that conversation, so there'll be a reason for them to go back when they see that card and either give you a call, shoot you an email, and you should always follow up. So that's actually another solid tip. and it's something I don't do enough.
Yeah.
And I get tons of business cards from all kinds of people, and one of the best things you can do is just the next day, right after the event, shoot out an email. Hey, great to meet you, great conversation. Depending on what industry, and if there's anything I can ever do to help you, let me know. And that's it. Don't be salesy, don't be pushy. Just, hey, great to meet you, and would love to stay connected. And that's a huge thing that I do, but I just don't do it enough. But I should be doing it more, and I recommend anybody who's starting to get into the networking scene to definitely do that.
Yeah, and then the reason I want to ask is like I feel like when it comes to making connections, there's a lot of times, and I'm sure you've probably felt the same way. You go to an event, you go to these conferences, and especially like some of these, like I went to 10x GrowthCon, right? And some of those people there were just like they're almost their business kind of like consumes them. Like they're not a person anymore. They're
Mm-hmm.
like an evil business owner almost. Like a I don't even know how to describe it. Like their business is their entity, is their identity, is their everything. And one is like the only thing to worry about is like what can I get from this person instead of like you know, is there anything that we actually can align or connect with? And for me, it always rubbed me the wrong way. I never really understood why that some people can just feel so comfortable, just like, and it's clear as day that they're just looking to get more business, and it's like there's no real connection. For me, I always didn't, never sat well with me. And, like what I got going on with my events, like now here in Stanford, I try to get a bunch of people from a bunch of different like industries, because when you're not in the same industry, the only thing you can connect on really is something that you guys align with. Whether it's like, for example, you said skincare routine, right? Same skincare routine, same whatever, because like it just makes it one harder to find a connection. But when you do, I feel like the connection is a lot more valuable. And like there's connections where it's like I'll collaborate with that person. For example, you, we have hopped on my podcast, spoke my event, like, and like you connect with someone and you just have, one conversation one time that just leads to more conversations, and then start collaborations, and then that for me has kind of been everything. And to pivot a little bit, right? You mentioned too a little earlier, um, something about you've taken a lot of courses. So like, not all online courses are worth their salt, right? So like, I wanted to ask you about that because that's something we never really talked about much. Like, are there any courses in particular that really stood out, and like, what did those specifically help with, and like, why did you invest in those? I know for me, like, when I invest in something, it's usually for like that particular season. So like, my first ever course was a $500 wholesaling course, right? And then from there, the next course I bought was I think something with ClickFunnels. It was a bit of time in between, but like it was something with ClickFunnels, and that's when I really started like buying courses and programs. So it's like what can you tell people? Because everyone wants to information, and all these people have courses online, right? What's some do's and don'ts when it comes to like getting an online course?
That's a great area. Yeah. Everybody has a course nowadays.
Yeah.
The best way that you can tell right off the bat if it's a course that's got a red flag
Yeah.
is how is the person who's selling the course portraying themselves. If they're abundantly flashy and they're, driving a Lambo, they're doing all this, they're doing all that, I'm not going to say the course is bad, but I'm going to say that should raise a red flag that if they're trying to teach you how to drop ship or do whatever, they're probably making more money off you buying the course than they are off drop shipping. But it's not always the case, but that's what does happen a lot now. So an, a really good way is to do a little bit of due diligence, and that's something I should have done more on some of the courses that I bought. I mean, I bought you know smaller courses. I bought courses that were as much as I think 5 or 6 grand, and I learned stuff from all of them. It's just to which ones are worth it. So when I say do your due diligence, like again, look at their profiles. Are they actively providing value outside of the course? That's a really big thing now. You can find a lot of people if they have a YouTube channel or something like that. If they're showing you how to do everything, and the course is more so like kind of a done with you project, or like how to walk you through it, how to actually like implement it, then you kind of already got an idea. You can see that they're already providing value. You know, they're already showing you like, hey, I've got all this stuff. It's here for free. You know, execute as much as you can, and when you can't get past the next level, come, we got you covered. That's what the course is for. That's a great sign that somebody actually cares, right?
Mm,
They're not just trying to get you to buy the course. I mean, at the end of the day, of course, that's what they want, but
yeah.
they're trying to help and not just make money, right? So that's, and I feel like especially now with all of the people coming out with courses, you know, left and right, you get a little bit more of a sense if you just take a second, look at it, you can get a little bit more sense of who's actually genuine, and who's not. So yeah, when you get that, you know, when you get that ad pop up on Facebook or something, don't jump right at it and buy it right away. Just
Yeah.
give it a little bit, you know, think about it, look it over, do some research on them, and then usually if you give it, you know, even another hour, you know, because we all get that impulse buy, especially if it's like, you know, you because Facebook ads are, when they know what they're doing, they know what they're doing. So that
Yeah.
ad will say, "You've been struggling with this problem. We can help you. Here's the answer. Buy our course." That impulse buy is going to be like, "Yep, here, you know, take my credit card. Here you go. Give it an hour. You know, sit back, sit for an hour, do a little bit of due diligence, and then go. If you feel like it makes sense, then go at it."
Yeah, no, 100%. You mentioned Facebook ads, and like everyone think, well, like, oh, this is a sign from God. It's like, no, it's not. They're just retargeting ads. That's what it is.
Exactly.
It's not a sign from God. They're retargeting you so they can get your money. Like you see the ad the
Exactly.
first time, you watch it, you click on it, you're doomed. Now you're gonna be on
Yep.
the retargeting plan, and you're gonna see their ads on Facebook, on IG, on somehow they're gonna get you on YouTube as well. Like, they're gonna get you everywhere you look. You're gonna see that ad.
Yep. Yep. That's it. You touched it. You clicked it. You're trapped. That's
Yeah, you're
it.
trapped for life. And one of the things when it comes to courses, um, one thing I've learned from like buying, I spent quite a bit of money on courses as well. Some that I've used, some that I haven't. Is you could tell like very quickly like how good or not good a course is put together. And like usually if you buy a lower ticketed course, like you'll get you're not gonna get a full on college level curriculum on
Mm,
whatever your subject is, but like them lower ticketed course, I always like for whatever reason I just stay weary. I'm like, if the information is that valuable, why aren't you charging for it? And
mm,
like, because people who pay attention, and usually it's like a direct correlation between how much they pay and how much they pay attention. And so like as you pay more, usually people pay more attention. But it's like people also, and like even with my course, bro, I had a couple people paying full, um, and just to not use the course. I mean, like you have lifetime access, but it's like, are you gonna open up a lesson anytime soon? And
mm.
like I'll email them. It's like, yeah, but I'm just busy, and now I feel bad. Like, it's one of those things where it's just like, man, the whole course space is like, it's good when people go through it, but it's like when people don't, and just like you almost feel guilty in a way for like accepting their money, even though they wanted to give it to you and they did
So
need help with it.
anybody who's watching this right now, this is a genuine person.
Yeah.
This is what a genuine person who's trying to actually help you with a course sounds like. Um, no, absolutely, and it's I actually I don't know if I think I mentioned it to you. I was actually at a conference in Maryland, which was really cool. It was an exclusive event. There was about 100
Yeah.
people. They all flew in from all over the world, and they were all of the top info marketers and course creators in the world.
Mm.
You know, the guy showed up wearing a Richard Mill, you know, three
I
to
think you told
five
me
hundred
about, yeah, I
thousand
think you
dollars.
told me that guy that at
Yeah,
least a little bit of the story.
yeah. And I mean, these people are, because course creating, if you're doing it right, is super lucrative. You can do very well. Um, it's but a big thing that a lot of these people say is, you know, you will get those people that'll just buy it and never look at it, and it's sad, but it's like, you know what? If they ever do go back and look at it, then you know you provided a ton of value, right?
Yeah.
And you know that you put all that work in, you made sure that there's not a question that there's value in there or not. It's there. So that's something you don't have to feel bad. And actually, an interesting that kind of little memo that one of the top guys that I was talking to, who actually he lives in Connecticut, um, that he said was, stop being a buyer, be a seller, right? So I
Mm.
mean, don't just buy every little course that's coming out, especially if you know you're not going to look at everyone. And if you have something of value, sell it.
Yeah.
Offer as much value as you can for free, and if people want more information or more walkthrough or how to do it, then you sell it. But yeah, the course world is really interesting.
And 100%. I seen a lot of. As you were saying that, I got an idea. Like, create a course on how to buy an online course. The
Yeah,
savvy way to buy your first online course without getting scammed.
that'd be pretty good. That'd be
Boom.
pretty good.
And then scam everybody. Lesson number one: don't believe everything you see online.
That's the only thing. There's nothing else in the course. That's just
That's the only
lesson
thing.
number one.
Sell it for $50, and from there, that's the best lesson they'll ever learn. Like, best lesson they'll ever learn. And you mentioned too about going to conferences, man. Like, for me, there's a lot of conferences like that. Not a lot, but a few conferences I've been to. Where it's like, you ever been to a conference? It's like a massive like pitch fest. Where it's like
Yes.
people are just like, yeah. I went to one conference. It was more as a workshop. Like the first day, it was cool. They pitch at the end. That's to be expected, right? And then like all day two, like they re-pitched like at least 7 times. It was insane. It got to the point where like they probably pitched as much as they taught on day two, maybe if not more. It was like constant re-pitching. So like when it comes to like conferences, like what are some do's and don'ts? Because you and I both gone to a lot of conferences. You and I probably spent more time than we probably should have at these conferences, especially for all the travel and the flying, all that stuff. So it's like, what are some conferences do's and don'ts for anyone that's looking to like fly out and go anywhere?
Um, Make sure that you have at least an idea of who's going to be presenting.
Yeah.
Have a little bit of background, because then if you have somebody that you're following that you trust and that you use for information, that you've been following their YouTube, following their social media, whatever, you know that if they've been genuine in providing information, yeah, they'll probably pitch something, but you're going to get your value, and you know that it's going to be worth sitting there through the pitch at some point. Um, that's definitely a big part, and just kind of keeping tabs on who's going to be going, keeping an idea of like what kind of person they are, because exactly like it's just annoying when that happens, especially if you're paying for that conference.
Yeah.
If you're paying a lot for that conference, it's like, okay, I just paid $2,000 to come here, and you guys are just selling me stuff. Like, come on, so absolutely. Trying to think what's another couple ways to avoid that.
I add to it what you think. For me, one of the things that I've been picking up on when it comes to conferences is like, one, you said the speaker list like is always great to look at, like who's gonna be there, but then also too is like there's some conferences where like they don't allow any pitching at all. But for those conferences, you also got to keep in mind. I feel like a lot of times when it comes to like conferences with no pitching, the people like the value of the information, there's not as much depth. I feel. I mean, sometimes there is because they're being paid to give a keynote, but
Mhm.
I feel like it's always tough. So what I've been doing, one of my, right now I'm in the middle of doing an actual series. I'm doing a bunch of solo episodes, literally like right now as we speak, and I'm sharing my experience at all the conferences I've been to. I think I've been to like 13 in total over the past like 2.5 years, something like that. Um, and one of my favorite conferences was like Kajabi Hero Live, because in there we learned this one thing called like deadline email sequences, which is like whenever you launch something, you have like a bunch of emails go out after the day you launched to remind people to buy. Um, and like that's been like the biggest game changer. So like when a conference, does what they need to do, it'll change everything for your business. Like they're doing their conference this year in I think in LA in October. But like that's one like yeah, I gotta clear my schedule. I'm definitely going to that because like if I got that much value and it's a whole bunch of people in my industry that are
Hmm.
going that are all online course creators, the amount of gems that were shared last time was just like overwhelming, which is good and bad because then it's like, all right, what do I do? But like, then you get that one nugget that just changes everything for you, and then it's
Yep.
like it makes the whole conference worth it.
Yep. Yep. No, absolutely. It's that one little nugget that can change everything. It could just change your entire business. It's just that one piece. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that
So
happens a lot with courses as well. I mean, that's another kind of thing is you're kind of digging for gold and you never know when you're going to hit it. I mean, I've bought with SEO. I mean, I, we do SEO on a really deep level, and a lot of SEO courses, especially the ones if you don't know the person very well or anything like that, they tend to be pretty basic. But I mean, occasionally in those basic ones you'll find like a little nugget of something, but like when you start getting to the deeper ones, it's just sometimes you find that like that just that one nugget that's just crazy.
yeah, no, 100%, man. Eric, your time has been flying. Like I don't know if you
Whoa.
noticed, time has flown, man. So like, where can we catch up with you? Where can we connect with you at? Um, if we want to keep up with you, if we want to keep getting more Eric, and potentially maybe one of us have an ecom business that we want to reach out to you to that needs some of the SEO services and want to join
Yeah.
underneath your umbrella that
Yeah,
you're
no, absolutely. So I'm actually doing a couple different things, and
talk to us.
that are might be kind of new, and I'd love to hear your feedback. I
Yeah.
think I mentioned one of them to you, but I'm working on a school group right now,
Mm.
and it's going to be free. And my goal is to basically throw up a couple courses that'll teach people the basics of SEO, so people can come in there, ask questions. I've actually got some of my team members in there, so basically give people a place to come in and start learning,
Yeah.
and be able to watch some step-by-step courses of how to set up your Google Analytics, how to get Google Search Console set up, how to set up your meta tags and do some research and find some free tools instead of we've got agency license for everything, and I'll tell you it's expensive. You don't need it. You don't need it to start
Yeah.
out. So I'm working on getting that together and helping the businesses that need it, and the end goal with that is once they get to a point where they're built up and they're so busy that they just need help, that we can be that helping hand.
Yeah.
um that's the goal with that, and to just provide as much value as I can. So what are your thoughts on that? Because you're the one who's got the community already and
Yeah.
already
No.
built it all up, so I mean
So
I'd love
I'm
to hear
launching it
yours.
tomorrow, literally. So so I'm looking for beta testers, literally. So for anyone that on the podcast who hasn't already know what I do, so I'm helping people, business owners, use AI, right? And so I'm launching it tomorrow, and so the as soon as you said community, I'm like, bro, you got to launch, you got to kick this thing off.
Mm,
I feel like anytime you get a new idea, you got to do a launch, and it doesn't have to be some crazy big thing. Like I'm just doing a little 1 hour webinar. It could be a whole 5 day challenge, but I don't think it's necessary for a free community. I think a webinar would be just fine. But or doing an in person event, right? Doing an in person SEO workshop, right? Slash networking events. Like one of the things like I've done right in the past, or like similar to like my podcast thing, where instead of you doing interviews, you would like have some networking and then have like a little mini SEO training, and then just mention, boom, I'm launching this community. If you guys find this valuable, I'm looking for beta testers, and like here's the benefits of beta testing. You get to start. I mean, it's free, so you don't really have to mention it. It's free, which is a benefit to everyone. But
mhm.
also, you're gonna get this bonus, which may be like a SEO checklist or something like that. Something you can easily whip up, a little like guide of like SEO do's and don'ts, right? A little thing.
Right.
Launch it and and then cap it and build a wait list solely for the fact that like you want people that are going to go through it, are going to give you actual feedback,
Right.
because if like a whole bunch of people join and no one actually uses it, um it's not really going to do anything. And also like doing a launch gets people excited, so like they're going to be more likely to do it. And because there's no investment, there's no skin in the game, so
Hmm.
people can literally just sign up and just never watch anything. But like
Right.
creating that launch, you build that momentum, that hype for it, that hopefully carries them to go through it, and then from there get the people that go through it to give you as much feedback as possible. But yeah,
Absolutely.
So I think that would be a dope idea. I don't know any communities on SEO. So all I know from like SEO is like usually I know there's a lot of people offering agency services. I don't know too many people that have created SEO courses, but like even like a SEO community where everyone's like to learn the basics, almost every business owner needs it, right? And a lot of business owners have admin. So it's like, and that could be a whole thing where it's like, hey, like, are you struggling with your marketing presence, but like can't afford agency services? Hey, I actually train your team the basics of SEO so you can get your SEO started. And that could almost become like its own like whole like little league magnet thing where like
Yeah,
every time you go speak at an event, every time you go speak at a conference, every time you go speak at a workshop, hey, my lead magnet is boom, I offer this free community. And now like a newsletter is cool and all, but like this is one on one. But a community they can interact with you, but also all the members in that community. So
right.
long story short, very long winded answer. I think it's a dope idea. And I think you should do a launch and make it some big, like exciting thing and let everyone know, like, hey, I got this community. Who's in? Boom. Kick it off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All
Sorry,
right.
long winded answer, but yes.
No, listen, that was
Launch it.
that's exactly
Launch
what
it.
I needed. Exactly what I needed.
And it's
Very
something
cool.
that's you once you create those mini courses, it's already put together. So the only thing you have to do is just be active with the community. And like
Yeah,
being active with the community, you can have an admin or someone on your team just be active with the community, moderate everything. But yeah,
yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, at some point it might switch to paid, but that's not really my intention right now.
yeah,
Again, as much value as I can provide to help, that's kind of the goal.
yeah, kick it off. So
Yeah.
do you have like a waitlist link or something?
Um,
Waitlist link is gonna be in the chat and in the description when Eric sends me the waitlist. So anyone who wants to get seen with their business, so you're not looking up your business on Google and not finding anything, and you're interested, the link is gonna be below. So I got
absolutely
you, Eric.
appreciate you.
I got you.
Appreciate you. And I hope you're jumping in too.
Yeah, of
I got a bunch
course,
of stuff in there for you.
bro. Definitely, bro. And then what else for anyone that wants to get a piece of you like right now? Where can we find you at?
You can follow me on Instagram. It's I'm not super active on Instagram, to be completely honest. I'm trying to be more active because I know it's important and it
For
should
that
be, and
community, that's gonna be like a big thing. Like getting active on IG so you can start promoting the community.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to talk to maybe some guy who knows how to use AI and social media.
With curly hair,
Yeah, curly hair.
I
You
think
might
I know a
know.
guy.
You
I
might know.
I may. He's not that big though, so I you know. But yeah, no, 100%, man, 100%. So yeah, now it's time for our famous five questions. I'm actually really interested to hear what you got because I know you got a lot of perspective on you. So question number one is, what is the most impactful lesson you've learned in life?
I'm gonna have to circle back to the 200th episode. Is fail hard and fail fast. You know,
Yeah.
get that out of the way because if you're afraid to fail, you're just never gonna exceed or get to the next level.
Yeah, I
So
forgot I asked you all five questions at the. I'm gonna audible new famous five questions, and I already asked you the first one. So famous four. All right, off the cuff, brand new questions solely for you, Eric, because literally actually the same questions a couple weeks ago. um, all right, second question: what was the hardest thing in your business that you had to overcome, and how did you overcome it?
I'm not gonna say the fear of failure, but kind of the fear of failure, and
Mm-hmm.
like that's a lot in the beginning, and it goes along with the imposter syndrome, and which I still get it, and anybody who says that they don't get it, who's trying to build something, they're lying. Everybody still gets it, and it's just something that happens. But in the beginning, that fear of failure and kind of taking that step, and you know, going through heavy mistakes or going through a big change of something that you don't know if it's going to work out. Um, it's rough. It's nerve wracking. It's stressful. It's definitely takes a toll. So I mean, I guess that's it. It's I don't want to say specifically a fear of failure, but just a fear of something might fail, and it's
Mm-hmm.
something just might not work out, and that's where that whole belief of I'm gonna figure it out, I'm gonna make it happen, has to come in.
Yeah. If it wasn't SEO, what would you be doing?
I probably would have either locked down on the ecom, um, which we do have a store now, but it's not my main focus. But I probably would have locked into some other kind of online business because I love the idea of digital real estate. Um, Specifically, I'm not sure.
Who's a mentor that you may or may have never met, but has helped you throughout your journey as a business owner?
There's a couple. Um, so, I'll throw up Alex Ramosi.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely one of the tops, one of the greats, in my opinion. And there's a there's a couple of SEO guys in my industry. One's Ryan Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
He's got an agency that's amazing. He's done a fantastic job growing that, and he actually that was one of the ways I got an idea of having an SEO community. He had an SEO community in Slack that was phenomenal, which actually, not to completely jump off, but which actually led to me meeting one of my business partners, and he brought me to that event in Maryland. That was
Wow.
private.
Dope.
So that SEO community from Ryan Stewart actually ended me up in Maryland with some of the top info marketers in the world. So you never know who you're gonna meet.
That's nuts. And then last question, a little bit personal, more personal. Who's Eric when he's not running a business?
I would say two big things go into Eric. Actually, no, I'm not gonna say two. There's a couple. I'm a big family guy, so that sounded kind of funny because of Family Guy. But I like to spend a lot of time with my family, and definitely when you cultivate, you have business relationships, and you have business relationships that turn into a little bit more than business. So you build out those
Mhm.
turn into friendships more so than just business friendships. So that's another place I like to spend my time. But outside of that, take away the family, take away the relationships. Like, what am I doing? Um, there's probably two main things. One, I'm either in the gym.
Yeah.
That's my biggest de-stressor. That's it. And then two is working on my car. Ever since I was 14, I actually bought my first car. Dying to get my license at 16, and would tear the car apart while I was waiting. So now that's pretty much what I do when I'm like, all right, you know what, I gotta take a step away. Go clear my head for a little bit. I'm either in the gym or tearing apart my engine.
Dope, man. It's always good to have things that can take your head out of this business space because it can consume you, man. There's been times where I just felt like no matter where I look, I couldn't escape. And it's just like business, 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 business. It gets overwhelming at time, man. And having something an outlet, right, where you just be present, be in the moment, be still, not worried about all the million things that we have to worry about. It's always dope to have. But Eric, man, thanks again for hopping on again. I can't wait to do this podcast again in like a year and like man, what you been up to, what you cooked up in the past year. So thanks again, and man, I mean
Absolutely.
we both live in Stamford, so I'm gonna see you probably in the gym tomorrow or one of these days. But
Most likely,
like,
yep.
thanks again for hopping on, brother.
Thanks for having me, man. This is great.